Welcome to the show, Getting Down to Business. I'm Jill Brown, Academic and Career Advisor with the Moomin College of Business.
And I'm Ashley Curtis, Assistant Director for the Bishop Center for Ethical Leadership. I am so excited for today's episode. Today is going to be all about entrepreneurship. Today we have with us a special guest from the Nault Center for Entrepreneurship.
That's right, Frank Nunez, who is a program planner, and you coordinate, you've got a lot of wear many hats, which makes sense as an entrepreneur. Let's see, coordinate pitch competitions, different events for the Nault Center. You have a history in finance, real estate. I found it interesting about the baseball hitting, published author, YouTube channel. Tell us a little more. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you both for having me on. So I've worn many hats as an entrepreneur. So I think that's kind of led me to where I am today as a program planner. But as you were saying, I've been in banking, real estate. I played baseball for a while and I became a hitting instructor, which I think the skills that I built there has helped me in my current role, working and mentoring student entrepreneurs. I think there's a lot of cross parallels between athletics and entrepreneurship, right?
Sure.
The nature of persistence and being able to focus on a goal and work towards that. But yeah, I've worn many hats. I've sold everything I was telling you before, from, luggage and pens and houses to almost selling knives door to door at one point, right, earlier on. So, I mean, I've done it all as an entrepreneur, and it's kind of led me to where I am today, in being able to orchestrate and plan many of these pitch competitions, events, and really my favorite part of the job, which is being able to mentor and work with student entrepreneurs and helping them empower their dreams so that they can be successful when they graduate. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, great resource for our students here.
Yeah. Before we dive in to the show, we want our listeners to get to know you just a little better. So Jill and I, for season 6, have a series of 6 questions that we're going to ask you. All right. So what is one word that you would use to describe yourself?
Persistent.
What's one thing that motivates you?
The process.
Okay.
Let's say.
I like it. What's one thing that you do to relieve stress?
Golf. I know it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because golf could stress you out, right? It's like
It's fun though.
It is fun, yeah. But I think golf it's a good mental exercise, right? Because golf it's kind of counterintuitive, So, but yeah, I would say golf and walking. A lot of walking, I think, helps too. Meditation, stuff like that.
I was surprised my first time on a golf course, just the sereneness of the scene, the beauty. Like it was peaceful. Like I could see, of course, if you're not playing well, but
that's the thing. Yeah, it's like
it's
but yeah, I think golf. It's definitely serene, and it's just it's almost I hate to put it like this. It's you against you in a way,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it is
So,
totally.
100%.
and it's about, again, it's a great mental exercise. But yeah, I would say golf is probably one of the ways I kind of release stress.
I
All
love it.
right, and then I have
Yeah.
the last 3.
Okay.
Favorite job you've ever had?
I would say this one, but I think also being a baseball hitting instructor and being an author, right? I think that's probably, I've been able to do all 3, and I think those are probably, the thing that I
Yeah,
enjoy.
and then if you could have a different profession than your current role, what would it be?
I like what I'm doing now, but I would say being a successful author and launching a franchise. I think with what I created with The World Never Waits and this Blake Steele, this ex-spy that, he goes on these amazing adventures in a way, right? So I think to create that franchise and see where it goes and create something that's entertaining and fun, but also relevant, I think, especially in kind of the world that we live in today.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm gonna be throwing that in my Amazon cart. What's one way you inspire kindness in the world?
I think authenticity and caring, right? And listening to what the other person has to say, because you never know what that other person's going through, So it's always paying attention. That's really important.
Serious, nailed it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for playing. Now we're going to get
All right.
down to business.
All right.
So Frank, let's start with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about the Nault Center for Entrepreneurship? What's it all about?
Yeah. So the Nault Center for Entrepreneurship has been around for a little over 20 years now. And really the goal of the center is to provide a quality entrepreneurship education to our students that come through our program, and helping them develop skills that will benefit them while they're in college and also when they graduate. Obviously our current economy now, and it's always has been very competitive. There's always all these changes happening, right? So it's making sure that we prepare our students with the skills so that if they decide to launch a business, they'll be successful. But entrepreneurship is interdisciplinary, so you can apply that whether you work in a corporate environment, a nonprofit, whatever that is, it's teaching these students skills that will benefit them immensely, make them more valuable in the marketplace. But what's great is that right now we're at an inflection point as a center now, right? Because we recently just got named. We're named after Nault, who provided us a very generous endowment that gives us the opportunity to do more events, provide more resources and opportunities for students. He's just an amazing individual who's, an entrepreneur and also very passionate about helping students. So this, again, really, we're at a point now where we're just able to do more and provide more resources and support for students that come through our program. But it's most importantly, we want to provide a holistic education for students where it's not just in the classroom, right? We go beyond that. We teach them real world skills that will again help them survive and thrive in almost any economic environment, and go from taking an idea and bringing it to life, right? And understanding the process of how to do that.
And that's so important because I think that's where you take beyond the classroom, learning the theory and actually applying it, where it starts to make sense and you're starting to put all of those pieces together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we get real with students because sometimes we tell them like, look, being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's challenging, right? So, these are the things you have to understand, and what most importantly, what not to do, and I like case studies, and I know they could be a little dry sometimes, but we encourage students to read on how businesses have failed and understand what they did wrong so you
Mm-hmm.
can avoid
Mm-hmm.
that. That's the biggest thing, because you want the whole goal is to stay in the game. I don't know if there's this term called asymmetric risk,
Yeah.
right? Where in entrepreneurship you got to take risks, but the best investors and entrepreneurs know how to minimize the downside but maximize the upside. And you can apply that in entrepreneurship and social interactions and other aspects of
Mm,
life, right? It's
yeah.
putting yourself where you can minimize the downside but maximize the upside, right? And keep making bets where, okay, maybe you lost, but you can stay in the game. And that's what entrepreneurship's all about, is being able to stay in the game long enough where you can eventually win.
It's kind of a cool mindset to have as well, like you said, for life.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly right.
You touched on a few areas with the Nault Center and the importance or benefits of that for students. Do you mind maybe expanding or really taking a minute to point out, because you don't have to be an entrepreneurship major to engage with the Nault Center or to find some of that value that the Nault Center can offer you as you move forward in your career, your journey, your post grad.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, a lot of the students that come through our program are not even entrepreneurship students, right? Per se. A lot of them come from biomedical, engineering, the arts, and other degree fields. So, and that's what's interesting about being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs come from all walks of life.
Right.
And, you know, we have a lot of very successful entrepreneurs and founders that come through our programs that have sold their companies, they're for vast amounts of money, wildly successful. And more often than not, they never intended on being an entrepreneur initially. They sort of didn't really have a choice, or they kind of found an opportunity, discovered it, and were able to make the most out of it. So, and even talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, if they had to go back, they probably would have tried to choose another career path, because as I said, it's not an easy
Yeah.
life, right? Starting a business, creating something from nothing is not easy, right? I guess that's the essence of creativity. It's not easy, but it's well worth it. But a lot of our students that come through our program didn't intend to be entrepreneurs, aren't necessarily entrepreneurship students. They want to create something. They have this desire to do something big, and we try to just help guide them to, again, taking that idea and bringing it to life.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah.
You mentioned just a little bit ago some of the programs. Can you dive a little deeper into the programs? I'm thinking you have the Hustle program, the Student Incubator, maybe some others that we're not thinking of that students should know about.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different resources and programs that we offer students. Like for quite some time, we've had pitch competitions, right? Which obviously popularized from Shark Tank, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
a lot of entrepreneurship programs, not just ours, but many across the country, have focused on pitch competition, which are great. But pitch competitions are just a small sliver of what entrepreneurship is actually about, right? So what we're trying to focus on, we've had pitch competitions like Florida Blue, which is a healthcare themed pitch competition. Davler, which is a general statewide business pitch competition. But what we're trying to offer now, for example, is that we're trying to make it more immersive for the student, where they're working alongside founders and helping them develop their business, and have that continual touch point where they're consistently working on their business with successful entrepreneurs to help them, again, going from ideation to launch. Like, for example, we had something called the Startup Team Challenge last year, which was, again, the idea from our executive director, Alan Cleary, who his vision, again, is what we've been discussing now, is going beyond just pitch competitions and really just providing a complete education for students. But like with the Startup Team Challenge, it's where students, we got about 8 teams, and they were presented problems that first year founders would experience when launching a business. So they worked alongside experienced entrepreneurs and helping them solve these problems, and then they presented their findings at the end. And the purpose of that, again, it's not just like a pitch competition, but it's they're starting to get their feet wet and understanding the nature of launching a business and the trials and tribulations that go along with that, and preparing them to face those challenges when they decide to launch. So this year we had something very similar called the Business Plan Championship, where instead of these problems, they were working alongside founders in developing their business plan. And having a business plan is really important when launching a business. That's your foundation, the template of what your business is going to look like, because it shows you how this thing is going to operate, how it's going to work, and ultimately how it's going to be able to generate revenue. So they worked alongside the founders. And again, they made a presentation at the end. And the founders were, and the judges that were involved were so happy with working with these students. We're going to have a follow-up competition in the fall in September, where it's going to be a bigger event. There's going to be potential investors there, more folks from the community. This will be in the USF Sarasota campus.
Can I ask a question about like the teams and such?
Yeah.
So do students have to try out? Do they, how can they get on a team, I guess?
That's a great question. So usually students will already have a team where we place them on the team, but we do have an application process. So
Okay.
we do, there's certain criteria we look for when it comes to selecting students for these competitions, right? And of course, I would love to admit everybody, right? We all would love to do that, but unfortunately, the nature of the competitions, we have to be selective. But we look for students to have a viable business idea, but most importantly, I think, are students that are willing to put in the work and have thought through what it is that they would like to present, what they want to work on, and are serious about putting in the time and effort to make this happen,
Okay.
especially participating in the event.
Gotcha. All right. Yes, but keep going. Yes, good
Yeah.
stuff.
No, great. Yeah. So, but then we have seed fund opportunities and programs. Like we have Thrive, which is a grant program for students and faculty, by the way. You can receive up to about $10,000 in grant funding to work on your innovation. You get mentorship support as well. And then we also have Hustle, which we've been doing this now for several years. This is an incubator program sponsored by a VC out of Sarasota, David Chester, who is just so passionate about helping student entrepreneurs. And really the way Hustle works is up to about 10 or 12 teams are chosen in this incubator program, where they're provided seed funding, mentorship, workshops, and opportunities and guidance from David and other entrepreneurs through our program to help them develop their innovation. It's basically an accelerator. And through that year-long process, if the business is commercially viable, they can potentially get Series A funding, where David can invest potentially up to $100,000 in the innovation or more. And it's just such an exciting program because, I mean, if you're a student that has an idea, you can go in 1 year, potentially go from idea to actually having a functioning business within a year.
Wow.
With all this support. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an incredible opportunity. So, and that's really what it is that we try to do at the Nault Center, is that we try to provide these opportunities for students so that if they're willing to take it, make the most out of them, it can accelerate their academic and professional career, the business if they choose to start one, or if they want to work in a corporate environment, whatever they choose, the opportunities we can provide can accelerate their career and put them in a very good position when they graduate, which is really important. Because the conversation I have with a lot of entrepreneurs and students in general is that, they're worried about, geez, can I get a job when I graduate?
Yeah.
And that's a tough conversation to have with students. And we want to make sure that the students that come through our programs, through our curriculum, whether they're a undergraduate or master's student, they're going to succeed when they graduate. That's our main objective at the Nault Center.
Yeah. So, Frank, if I'm a student and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, okay, there's a lot of great programs, what tips would you have if a student is thinking of applying and wants to submit a successful application
For like a particular competition
for
or
Hustle or Thrive?
that's a great question. So I would say, the first thing you want to think about is that are you willing to be committed to, like for example, the Hustle program. That's a year-long program, right?
Okay.
And that's not just like a classroom exercise. That's the real deal, right? You're potentially given seed money, maybe Series A money if your business qualifies, right? Like money's on the line. That's the real deal.
Yep.
And it's expected that you participate, you get involved, you show us that you're willing to put in the work. And that goes through any one of our programs. But most importantly, I think also like, it's not being afraid to put yourself out there, right? Because again, you can have a great idea, you could have thought it through, but if you're not willing to take that chance and give yourself an opportunity to put yourself out there and succeed and put in the work through any one of our programs, those are some of the things to think about, I think, if you're a student. And then also, there's a little exercise I do. I do a lot of high school visits, right? And I do this exercise with a lot of high school students, like take a sheet of paper, think about what it is that you're passionate about in one column. Then the second column, what is it you're good at? And try to figure out if you can match a passion and a skill of what you're good at. And can you come up with a business or a way you can create value in the marketplace, right? And once you figure that out, then that can help point you in the right direction as to what you want to do next. And I would say to come through us, don't be afraid to reach out to us, start developing relationships with people who are doing the things that you want to do. That's really important. But those are some of the things I would consider, when like going through our program.
Great.
I would say.
Thanks.
And I'm just going to lean in on that last bit because there are so many offerings and opportunities. So good question. I was heading that way too. That like when a student is kind of unsure how to even get started, and you have to think about a lot of our students are first generation students. Their parents may be not in the business professional sector with their industries or work experiences, and they don't yet have a network and they just really don't know where to start. So do you have some coaches or personnel that they could meet with a student just to get the ball rolling, maybe to figure out, you know what I mean, what might be good for them, especially like a year-long commitment that you mentioned with some of the programs?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So we have like a mentorship program.
Oh,
So
okay.
what we
There you
do is
go.
we can match students, and again, there's an application process with that, but we basically can match students with an entrepreneur or an individual who's doing the thing that the student wants to do,
Okay.
right? We also have several entrepreneur in residence that are involved in our program who
Mm.
basically provide guidance and counseling to students who are looking to potentially launch a business or maybe are unsure what to do. And that's, working at the Nault Center, that's something that's very common with a lot of students, right?
Mhm.
They're in college, they're trying to figure out what it is that they want to do. But as I said before, I think the biggest thing, it's putting yourself out there, right? I think it was Woody Allen said that 99% of success is just showing up, right? Show up,
Yeah.
right? Put yourself out there, have those conversations. And if there's something that you want to do, believe that you can do it. And the biggest thing I think for us is showing that, it's about possibility.
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of us, I'm guilty of this, right? We sort of get in this narrow way of thinking. We do the
Mhm.
same thing over and over
Yep.
again every day. We don't realize that, hey, maybe this is possible. I can do this or I can do that, right? So it's showing students that, look, there's a lot of things that you can do. There's a lot of opportunities out there. It's just being able to expand your mind a little bit. And again, those relationships, as you mentioned, are incredibly important.
Mhm.
Surrounding yourself with the right people that could help you, because to achieve anything, especially launching a business, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You mentioned careers earlier, that you have a lot of conversations with students about careers. So the question that we have is, what do career paths look like for entrepreneurship students?
It varies. I think a lot of our students, like for example, we've had students that come through our program that participate through our events have gotten to Goldman Sachs, right? We've had several students that,
Mhm.
have gotten in there. And if you work for Goldman, you're on top of the financial food chain, right? That's the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
But then we've also had other students that have worked for nonprofits that have launched their own businesses. So it just varies, I think, which makes the job, I think, fun, but also challenging,
Mhm.
trying to figure out to help students with their career path, especially after they graduate. A lot of students go on like to go get pursue their
Yep.
masters. So it varies, I think, where students go. The biggest thing for us, our priority, is to ensure that when students graduate and they go through our program, that they're in a good position, for their career. That's the biggest thing for us.
Yep.
And I'm going to ask a follow up in the sense of what would you say would be top skills that students can expect to gain from an entrepreneurship program or an experience if they participate? What would you say?
So I would say business model development, right? Knowing how to develop a structure for a business, which is immensely important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knowing how to, how to construct the marketing plan, how to design the product, who is that customer avatar, what's the design a revenue model, funding model. Some of those are just some examples of how to construct this business model. Fundraising. I would say communication
Yeah.
is probably the biggest thing through our program, right? There's all the technical stuff, right, that we teach for, with venture capital, business model development, innovation, design. But it's communication. That is the most important thing. Warren Buffett said that if you can improve your communication skills, you can increase your net worth by 50%. And he's absolutely right about that, right? That's a drop the mic moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always tell it to students, right? If you can get up there, like with a pitch competition, it doesn't matter whether you win a cash award or not, but the fact that you put yourself up there, and I've seen it, where a student may not necessarily win or even have the best pitch, but someone in the audience liked them, and they'll hire them, they'll give them seed funding, they'll give them opportunity. It's putting yourself out there, and learning how to communicate effectively. Because I think in the post-COVID world, a lot of students that especially students that are now starting to come through our program, were impacted from COVID, through social isolation and all that stuff, and virtual learning, where that impacted negatively their communication skills. And we're trying to help mitigate that through our program and teaching students how to communicate effectively. If you can learn how to influence people, influential folks, to help hire you, invest in your company, work with you, et cetera, that makes you a very valuable person in the marketplace.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Boom. That's what I take from it. So I was just thinking about the first time to have to step in front of people and speak. Students cringe at the speech class that we have as a requirement in the College of Business. There's a professional writing class, but they really do have their place in the business world, and why we're having you do this and work in teams and build relationships. So important down the road, but also within their career in the college environment. So thanks for sharing that part.
No problem. Absolutely.
Frank, I was just going to say, from one entrepreneur to prospective entrepreneurs, any other tips for success that you might offer our students?
Follow your instincts. And this is why I say that, because there's a lot of noise out there, and you go on YouTube and social media, and there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between information and wisdom. There's not a lot of wisdom out there. Lots of information, but lots of wisdom. I mean, the opposite. Lots of information, not enough wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So I would, as a student, try to discover and read about wisdom. Read and learn from people who've done it. Read wisdom that has stood the test of time, right? Again, going back to Buffett, right? He's an investor, entrepreneur. Guy knows what he's talking about. He's been investing since World War II, right? Probably someone you should listen to. And other entrepreneurs and folks that have gone through the trials and tribulations of trying to get where they want to be, right? Listen to wisdom, because a lot of the information out there on social media is designed just to get eyeballs and clicks, right? It's not information that's necessarily in your best interest.
Yeah.
So go old school, read books, right? Try to discover wisdom.
Read books.
Read books, right? I know Instagram, look, I know. And I'm not saying all the information on social media is bad.
Right,
There's some
right.
really good influencers out there that provide good stuff. But learn wisdom, right? That stood the test of time, because 20 years from now, 30, 100 years from now, that wisdom is still going to be relevant.
Yes.
So that's getting back to the basics. And then I think once you discover and learn more about wisdom, you discover yourself. And I think that's what will help you develop a foundation, mental growth and opportunity that will help you become an entrepreneur and succeed in whatever it is you decide to career path you choose.
Great. Thank
I
you.
would love to continue this conversation for a while. This has been great. very informational for us to know about the different programs and resources that students can find at USF. I mean, there's just so much.
Yeah.
There is.
So I hope students maybe hear this and piques their interest, go onto the website, check it out. And then maybe we can have you and a student back from one of the competitions to talk about their experience and what they went through, especially since it is such a journey. Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I was gonna say we have plenty of students that we would love to bring them back,
Okay.
as
That'd
some
be
of our
great.
students because they have such amazing stories. And these students are unbelievable. I mean,
Right,
that have come through our
students
program.
are.
They're incredible. That's what motivates, I think, myself and all of us at the Nault Center is just to help these students because they're just so immensely talented, passionate. And if we can just make a difference with one student, that makes all the difference, right? So, but yeah, we got some amazing stories we'd love to share down
All right.
the road.
We're going to
Sounds
come
good.
back. So, Frank Nunez with USF's Nault Center, getting down to business. Find us, Apple, YouTube, Spotify.